Hello everyone, hello, I am back with another video. I'm so excited because I'm finally back outside and this is my element. So today I'm going to touch on how you can use astrology to tap into how to further heal yourself. This is especially great for people that are currently going through the dark night of the soul, or for people that just simply want to discover who they are on an astrological plane or level. If you see me looking down, that's why, looking at my notes. But so let's get into it. Hi again, my name is Rihanna Johnson. I'm a wellness coach. I am a tarot reader. I'm also somebody who is very fond of personal development, self-development, whatever you want to call it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your energy, and let's begin. So some people may be wondering what your birth chart even is, or how do you even use it. Today I'm only going to touch on 3 main important things that I would like for you all to dig into to figure out how you can further develop yourself in this lifetime. Feel free to do your own research as well. I feel like you'll probably retain the information even more by doing your own and figuring out what the different planets, what the different aspects, how they work for you in your specific life. So, to begin, a birth chart is a snapshot of the planets at the time, place, and location of which you were born. And I will say that in order to figure out your birth chart more accurately, you are going to need to know your birth time. I will be sure to put below how you can even research those things if you don't know it for sure. The best way that I would say to figure out your birth time is to ask a parent or grandparent or whoever. Now, it is used for you to figure out who you are on an astrological level. We all can say my favorite food is pizza, or my favorite color is purple, whatever the case is. But on an astrological level, that shows you the things that you cannot see, the things that you may be struggling with, or the things that you just further want to understand about yourself. Now, I will say there are 2 types of charts. You have your Vedic chart or your Vedic chart. Hold on, it was a helicopter. But you have your Vedic chart or Vedic chart, is very interchangeable, or you have the Western birth chart, which is most commonly used, especially in the US. The main 2 differences between these 2 things is your Vedic chart. I'm going to call it Vedic, but your Vedic chart is dependent upon how the stars are aligning with the planets, or how the stars are in position compared to the planets, something like that. I'm not too familiar with the Vedic chart. I don't personally use it. I have heard that it is a better option, but I really think that it just depends on who you are or what you're most comfortable with. Moving on. The Western birth chart has to do with the spring equinox and how the planets align dealing with the spring equinox. Now, you can find your birth chart on pretty much any website. I personally like to use Cafe Astrology, and their website specifically is astro.cafeastrology.com. Now, it is a little complicated to read your birth chart. It just has a lot of aspects to it, but this is going to be the most basic description of how to read your birth chart. So you have 12 zodiacs, which is the most common that everybody knows. So you have your Aries, you have Taurus, Gemini, that type of stuff. And then when it comes to houses, you have your first house all the way to your 12th house. I don't believe it specifically aligns up with each 12 zodiac sign, but we're just going to say that for this video. Now, you also have 10 planets that align with these 12 houses. And this is associated with each planet's own characteristics. So say for instance, like your Venus is associated with love and just like intimacy in general, how you express your love for things or people around you. And then your first house, some websites call it the first house, other places call it the ascendant. It's interchangeable, alongside with the 10th house, midheaven, that's also interchangeable. Now, the 3 things that I wanted to touch on that would really benefit you when looking at your birth chart is your North Node, your Chiron, and your Lilith. The North Node has to deal with your true desires, your most soul fulfillment, and then your Chiron has to do with the wounded healer. This is often called the wounded healer, and that's because this is the stuff that you will have to work throughout this lifetime. This represents your deepest, most emotional and spiritual wounds that you have been working through, maybe this lifetime or many lifetimes. You also have your Lilith. Your Lilith is the true desires that are hidden to avoid criticism or rejection from the world around you. So say for instance, if you want to be a singer, but you are afraid to sing, or you're afraid to maybe tap into your throat chakra, this is that kind of thing. Like I said, I'm going to keep it on the most basic level. That way everyone can get a broad view of how to use their birth chart in a way that'll best benefit them. Now, going back to the 12 houses, I will briefly explain what each house represents, seeing as though you have planets and zodiacs that align with one another and create this different aspect that I have help you, especially trying to figure out who you are as a person. So we're going to start off with the first house. The first house has to do with Aries. Aries has to do all with the sense of self, or the expression of self. So this is most often what people go by when they say, what's your sign? Who are you? You know, this, or I'm a Gemini, I'm a Taurus, I'm a whatever. This is how people identify you. They identify you by your first house most commonly. Your second house has to do with Taurus energy, or the Taurus zodiac, which has to do with money, possessions, value, finances. This is all about tangible items, but it also has to do with emotions and how we spend money. The third house is associated with Gemini. Gemini is associated with communication, the intellect, and local travels. So this is where we discover other people. This is how we also connect with other people as far as social media, the news, this, everything. No. But everything that has to do with communication, this will be associated with the Gemini third house. Moving on to the fourth house, this is associated with Cancer, and Cancer has to do all about foundation. So this is family, the home, the heritage, what you inherited from maybe your parents or your bloodline. And this can reveal also your relationship maybe to your mother or her mother, however that goes. See, this also will give you a perspective on domesticacy. So a lot of times, say for instance, like the male, he'll probably go by this and trying to figure out who his mate is, say per se. Now the fifth house is associated with Leo. This is the pleasure, this is the creativity, this is the inner child expression. And with that, this is how you can understand how someone's imagination works. Moving on to the sixth house. Sixth house is associated with Virgo, and this is the maturing house. So the previous houses had to do more with self and the hidden parts of self, and moving past this, as you'll see, it'll be more so the connections outside of us. So it'll have to do with family, the spirituality, or religion, or social status. You'll see as we go further on, this is just a borderline for how you move within the world. So this has to do with daily schedule, daily routine, all that type of stuff. Moving on to the seventh house. Seventh house has to do with Libra, and this is the house of partnerships, as far as one-on-one relationships, marriages, partnerships, all that type of stuff. So this will give you insight into past relationships and also future relationships. Then you have the eighth house. Eighth house is Scorpio. Now, I personally like this one because this particular house has to do with life, death, transformation. This is ultimately the house of the spirit, between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Oftentimes, you'll also hear that this is the house of sex and intimacy and all that kind of stuff. And also, I want to put a little side note in there. It can mean physical death, but in a symbolic way, this is just about ending one thing and beginning another. The ninth house has to do or is associated with Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the house of philosophy. So this is oftentimes where people distant travel or they lean into the philosophy of religion, how people work. This is just exploring and learning more about the world around you. It's a B. Oh my God. Now, moving on to the 10th house. 10th house is associated with Capricorn. And Capricorn is associated with the reputation, social status, career. This is where you'll find one's reputation and one's leadership style. Another helicopter. Anyway, last but not least, we have the 11th house. The 11th house is associated with Aquarius, and Aquarius has to do with the community, friendships, and humanity as a whole. This is how we communicate with close individuals, and this is also how we mix in with crowds and the people around us. Lastly is the 12th house. The 12th house is associated with Pisces, and this is all about the unconscious and hidden truths about ourselves. So a lot of times this is where you'll find the associations with dreams, with the spiritual realm, with anything that does not take a physical form. This is where you'll find that in the 12th house. This also has to deal with emotions. Like I said, anything that does not take a physical form, this is where you'll find it in that 12th house. Now, going back to the three main things that I wanted to focus on as far as personal development and also for people that are going through the dark night of the soul, this is a great starting point for figuring out how to come out of that, how to work through that, and understanding why is currently happening the way it is. And for people that don't know what the dark night of the soul is, it's essentially just you really questioning the world around you, really coming into terms that certain things are not how they were portrayed or how things were not taught the way they are, all that kind of stuff. Just a spiritual awakening, essentially. So the North Node has to do with the soul fulfillment. This is what gives you that ultimate deep desire in this particular lifetime. This is your ideal direction. Now, I will say that with you moving into your North Node and you discovering what your North Node is, there will be some challenges, but there will also be equal or greater reward when it comes to this particular aspect in your astrological chart. Opposing that is the South Node. This is oftentimes what we're comfortable with. This is our comfort zone, but ultimately staying in this place leads you to stagnancy. This is not where you want to be. So yes, you have challenges in the North Node, but you have equal and greater rewards as you work through that goal or that soul fulfillment. Now, the Chiron is interesting, baby, because it will air your dirty laundry, but it's helping you heal at the same time. So when you go in there, it's gonna give you, this is like you cracking the door with your North Node, and the Chiron is just like whoosh, and it is. But anyway, so this is known as the wounded healer. And with that, this represents your deepest emotional and spiritual wounds that you may have had over previous lifetimes, if you believe in that, or just particularly in this lifetime that you're struggling to work through, or a repeated pattern that you cannot seem to overcome. Oh, I almost forgot. I have a copy of my own birth chart, and I just wanted to show it to you that where you have a viewpoint of what it particularly looks like. So like I said, you have the different zodiacs, the different planets, how it conjuncts and all that kind of stuff. The houses are in Roman numeral, and then it gives you, like I said, we're going to keep it on the most basic level, but this is just a broad view of what it looks like. Feminine, then you have the different elements and how they work. Very interesting. You have the aspects. Now, as far as Chiron, I found this on astrostyle.com. That's the easiest way to plug in your Chiron if you don't know it currently. And with the Chiron, like I said, it represents your deepest emotional and spiritual wounds. So, for instance, your Chiron is in Capricorn, and that's in your 8th house. This has to do with issues related to intimacy, vulnerability, and transformation. I also read that it could deal with you overindulging in trying to climb like the social ladder or the career ladder, really trying to prove yourself or feeling a need for validation from people around you. Oftentimes, people associated with Capricorn in the 8th house regarding their Chiron, you will see that they're often drawn to experiences that force them to work on themselves, if that makes sense. Them having to work through the different things that they cannot see on the physical level. This could also present itself romantically or financially. It just depends on how that shows up at that particular time. Moving on to the last thing is your Lilith. Your Lilith has to do with your true desires that you fear other people may reject. And I feel like with these 3 things, that'll really help you figure out your direction on where to go, how to heal, how to move about it, and how to recognize those different challenges that will come about throughout your lifetime, and how you best, particularly using your own birth chart, how you can push past those obstacles. Thank you for being here. I hope this video was beneficial in some way. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you want me to touch on something a little bit more. Bye.